What is up? Shop Talk. Shop Talk Podcast. And once again, we are live from the Workbench. This is for August 12th, 2018. And this is episode 24. We've got NBA legends versus current players and also prospects. I was kind of a little disappointed. The first little piece I wrote, The Jump covered it 3 days ago, and I didn't watch it till today. Well, let's just put it this way. It's about Zion Williams and his comparison to Larry Grandmama Johnson. That was how I started. So that's how I'll start the piece. Anyways, so let's see. Check a level real quick. Okay. Now, first of all, so it's NBA legends. There are some people left out of here, and I will include some of them at the end of this. And I don't know if I'll do it. Depends on how long this will run for. I have a little funny story to tell at the end, and later in the week I will be putting up the clip. So if you don't want to stick around for that, whatever, it'll be at the end. But so the Jump covered part of this, but they didn't cover it all. Okay, so they only compared Larry Johnson and Zion Williams, and also Charles Barkley also was on there a little bit. And oddly enough, tractor trailer, because I'm going to get to the players, like I just said, that I didn't use. And also, so first of all, my favorite player was Larry Grandmama Johnson, okay? And this is the stretch for, they're talking about a league. Anyways, did I even say it? I wrote this before I watched that. Actually, I wrote this probably around the time that they put that out. Anyways, but they didn't do the other positions. That was the whole point. So, this is stretch four, small forward, power forward. Legend would be Larry Grandmama Johnson, and the prospect is Zion Williams. Very similar body types. Will Williams play the 3 or the 4? That's the question. So, and they're also talking about a league without, positionless players or, So when Larry, the original LJ, came into the league, he was listed at 6'7", 235, and he was all muscle. And he ballooned up to 275, all muscle. This is in his prime before his back injury. And that will, that also took away his explosiveness and turned him into a jump shooter, okay, if you're not familiar with him. And I will say Zion Williams' in-game dunking is insane. Much better in-game dunker than Larry. But we're talking about high school games here. And also, Larry still had some really good in-game dunking. His in-game dunking was dunking on people, not in the open floor, as much as all the dunks I've seen from Zion are pretty much open floor. So, and also he will play next year at Duke, so we're more than likely for 1 year only. And you could draft guys straight. If you could draft guys straight out of high school still, he would definitely have the most ready NBA body. Okay, problem is LJ, and actually ESPN got it right, was listed at 6'7", was really 6'5", and there's videos on YouTube where he actually states that he's 6'5". And also, they got it right. They had him at 6'5.5" on ESPN. And this is the crazy part, though, because Zion's weight, we'll get to it, but he's all over the board. and so is his height. So LJ, Grandmama, his career averages were 16.2 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, and 3.3 assists per game. His first season, which also he was Rookie of the Year, he was 18.2 points. And second season, he was 22.1 points. And he played 10 seasons in the league. Zion averaged 35-plus points, but you got to remember, those are also high school games. We'll definitely see him mature at Duke. And, yeah. So Zion is listed at 6'6", 273. That's what I seen. ESPN said he was 6'7", 280-something. Now, a lot of this is muscle, though, too. But you get an injury. Anyways, and that'll be a rough at that stretch 4. I think also Zion will have a hard time keeping off the weight, but maybe not. We'll see more when he goes to Duke. So, ceiling, I think Larry Johnson is his ceiling. I think Anthony Bennett could be his floor or his bottom, whatever you want to call it. And look at guys like Barkley. When he first came in the league, I don't know if it was Dr. J or no, it was Moses Malone was telling him to keep off the weight, lose certain amounts of weight each year, and he eventually became a starter and an NBA All-Star. Also, Gary Trent Sr., Kevin Garnett said Gary Trent wasn't 6'8" or 6'10", which I believe, not on Wikipedia, but back in the day, the games used to have him at 6'8" or 6'10". I used to use him in the video games because he's here locally from here. He was really 6'5". That's what Kevin Garnett said. I've stood next to Gary Trent, waited on him at the store I used to work at, and he's at least 6'6", if not 6'8". I wish I would have paid more attention at the time. It was years ago. 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And let's just hope he doesn't balloon up like Sean Kemp. Yeah, 6'10's a little different than 6'6 frame, but, again, that's a high flyer for you. That kind of took away all his, his high wire act. Just like Larry Johnson, you get an injury too. So hopefully he stays healthy and blah, blah, blah. So this is probably the least favorite of the two. There's more. We'll jump back to that one. I'm going to go to one that This one will be short and sweet. So at center, your NBA legend is Hakeem, formerly Akeem Olajuwon, versus current NBA player Joel Embiid. Now, Joel Embiid wants to be Hakeem. He would love this comparison. Embiid listed at 7 foot, 260, and also Hakeem listed at 7 foot, 255. Now, the reason why this one will be short and sweet because I didn't write that much for it. Anyways, but no, and also I believe Olajuwon used to have these classes, or they weren't classes, but they were sessions where players could come in, and this is the one thing I wish I would have looked up. And they were, they got to be more than 50 grand. I want to say they were 50 or 100 grand for so many hours, and he would show you different moves. But to be honest with you, they could be more than that. They could have been 500 grand, $1 million. I don't know. What are you going to pay a legend like that to teach you? And they're very comparable. Now that the three-point shot's more prevalent now, Joel Embiid's got this little sick dip that he does, and does this little fadeaway in his mid-range, and you can't block his shot really if he's trying to shoot a three. So I don't really care for all the stuff that he says on social media, but if I was that big, I'd probably be saying the same stuff too, but I don't know. I have a little bit more common courtesy for people. So, back to the one I didn't want to talk about. Oh, which, this is one of my favorite players too. Next NBA legend versus current player is, of course, the point guard position. The Big O, Oscar Robinson. Cincinnati Rules, baby. So, Russell and versus Russell Westbrook. How odd, they have such a similar game. And the only reason why Russell was compared to him so much is not a similar game as much as it is just the stats. And we'll get to some of that. And you'll also notice on some of these stats, too, that the legends, their first few years or so, or maybe even more in the game, made such more of a greater impact than some of the first few years of the current players or prospects. So you have the Big O, and he is listed at 6'5", 205. Now, you also got to take into some kind of consideration. Don't you love that? You're right in the middle of being in the zone, and the fucking air conditioner kicks on. Yeah. So, you got to take in consideration many of those years that some of these guys played, there wasn't a three-point line, especially on their points per game. So, let's see. The Big O's points per game, career average was 25.7 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game, 9.5 assists per game, which, if you look at the total amount of years, I think that's a little askew. Anyways, first 7 years, 6 of the 7 seasons, his first 6 out of the 7 first seasons he played, he averaged more than 30 points per game. And the other one, he's really close on. And 5 out of those 7 seasons, he averaged more than 10 assists per game. And he almost averaged a triple-double for the first 5 seasons in the league. His first 5 seasons, okay? Now, let's get to the other stats. Russell Westbrook, 6'3", 200 pounds. Okay. The thing is, I always think of Westbrook more as a scoring guard, and always thought they should play him more like a scoring guard. I know he needs the ball in his hands to create. You get the rebound, you take the ball down court. Okay, I get that. I just think he would be a much more well-rounded player if he could, not necessarily catch and shoot, which he can. All these guys can. They're in the freaking NBA, They're all good, But I think just his off-the-ball play would just make him a much more well-rounded player. And, okay. So anyways, to the career averages, Westbrook averages 23 even points per game, 6.6 rebounds per game, 8.2 assists per game. But, okay, so his 2016 to 17 season, his best statistical year, he averaged 31.6 points per game, 10.7 rebounds per game, 10.4 assists per game. Now, if you go back and you look at Oscar Robinson's stats from like the first probably about at least the first 10 years. I mean, he blows them out of the water. A lot of these guys, I wouldn't say they're late bloomers, but they don't have as much of an impact on the game when they first come into the league as these legends. And some people might say, well, Larry Johnson's not a Hall of Famer or whatever. He probably is. So, You remember when Beverly injured Westbrook, and Westbrook, he wanted to go after him. He wanted to fight him, and but his injury wouldn't allow him to. He was so pissed, and like Beverly, like Beverly did it on purpose. Beverly was playing some hard-nosed defense and was shutting him down. But I really think Beverly could take Westbrook. But other than that, I like Westbrook. You got to also remember, too, on his rebounds, some of those guys on the team were letting him kind of pad the stats a little bit, you know. Should have done some betting on that a couple of years ago. So, next one. Now, this will be a bit of a controversy. Of course, I had to do it, but everyone else is going to want a different player, and we'll get to that. This is at the small forward. The NBA legend, and I know he's not a small forward, but in today's game, where would you play him? He wouldn't play point guard. Yeah, he might bring the ball up the floor and run point on offense. We'll get to that. Is Earvin Magic Johnson. I remember the day I seen the press conference that he would not be playing basketball, but he was popular with the ladies. And the current player, future Hall of Famer, LeBron James, arguably the greatest player of all time. I know I'm going to get shit for that. The best current player, we'll go with that. I know a lot of people would like the comparison of Jordan to LeBron, but not enough similarities for me in playing style. LeBron was wildly compared and regarded to be the next guy that we just talked about, Oscar Robinson, 6'5", 205, triple-double machine, a pass-first point guard, and he was also considered to be kind of like the next Magic Johnson. 6'9", 215, came back much heavier in 1996, where he played power forward. A lot of people might not remember that. And he also was the coach of the Lakers at the time. James, 6'8", 250, which some commentators say 275, 280, coming down the floor like a freight train. I don't think anybody knows his real weight, and he's not going to tell anybody, So when LeBron came in the league, he was listed as a scoring guard. You can go back to that season, and you can look it up. He's listed as a scoring guard. And many times, it might have even been more seasons than that. I didn't look into it. Many times, like when he was playing with Delonte West, they had it to where it was kind of not a oversized point guard, but it was a guy that the point guard could go and play the scoring guard on offense. Why LeBron could have the ball in his hands. So many times playing the point on offense, just like I said, and scoring guard on defense, much like a point forward, or Magic Johnson running the point on offense and playing much larger players. I'm not talking about larger than him. I'm talking about larger than other people on the floor on D. So LeBron never hit his bottom, so we're not even going to go there. And his ceiling is he's LeBron James. I think he could easily play another 5 years, health permitting. But, when you get older, your ACLs, they tend to shrink and get weaker. And as you get older. So LeBron James has no floor or bottom. His ceiling is president of the United States. And that'd be, I think, one of the first few, except for our founding forefathers, without a degree. A college degree, I should put it that way. So, did Hakeem... This is, don't forget, we're also going to get to the point where I go over the players that I didn't mention, and fun to watch players too. So, scoring guard. And I know I just did that on small forward, and you're give me shit for it. NBA legend. That it wasn't a scoring guard, and he may have been in his first few seasons, but he was actually listed as a small forward. And this league, that's the position everybody wants the great players. Look at, Anyways, okay, back onto it. So the NBA legend is Bernard King versus, and I had to do this, Jaylen Brown, and I had to put him in there because Jaylen Brown will always be compared to Jason Tatum. So Tatum's in there too. And you might say, well, Tatum plays the 4. Well, that's not his natural position. And back onto Bernard King, the guy was a scorer, so he could have been a scoring guard. And I'm sure when he played the Bulls and they played Jordan, he was guarding Jordan. There's a video on there about that. So, some of the best players just guard the best player on the floor. That's just the way it works. So, and the Celtics, did I even mention? So the 4 is not even his natural position. I probably said that. So the Celtics they could get rid of Gordon Hayward. And I know, everybody, every Celtics fan likes a white guy on their team. And I don't blame them. Kind of deservingly so. It looks, it just reminds me of yesteryear. So, anyways, there's such a logjam at the small forward position. And there's so much talent on the Celtics. If Tatum was never drafted to the Celtics, Jaylen Brown might as well be starting at small forward. Anyways, here's the stat rundown. You got Bernard King. This guy was a scorer, and you'll hear 6'7", 205 from New York City. Career average 22.5 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 3.3 assists per game. His first year, and listen to this. This is what I was talking about, the impact coming right into the league. First year, averages 24.2 points a game, okay? Next year, the 83-84 season, 26. Yeah, well, no, actually, that wasn't his first. Jesus. Is it 1983-1984 was not his second year. I got that confused. So I just wanted to point out some of the higher scoring ones. 26.3 points a game. 84-85, he shoots 32.9 points a game. And literally, I think the next year or that season, tore his knee all to shreds. And doctors told him he shouldn't even come back and play. He goes to the Bullets, blah, blah, blah. 1990-91 season, he gets 28.4 points a game. Okay? None of these guys are coming in the league and making such an impact like this. So, Jaylen Brown, listed at 6'7", 225, first year. Keep in mind, he was only playing 17.2 minutes, averaging a game during the regular season, 6.6 points a game, 2.8 rebounds, 0.8 assists per game. Okay, second season, 30 minutes, 30.7 minutes. Okay, he's not even averaging 35 or 40 minutes. 14.5 points a game, 4.9 rebounds a game, 1.6 assists per game. Now, on to Jason Tatum, 6'8", 205. Not as much muscle there. He needs to put on a little weight. I mean, I don't even know if he's 205. So, 13.9 points a game, first year. And I think he got a lot more playing time. Definitely, they had a depleted roster. I mean, that was the most fun to watch team all year for me, even though I'm the number one Cavs fan. So, 5 point rebounds per game, 1 point assists per game, these guys get buckets. I'm sure there's going to be some breakout games this year. And yeah, I would say at least one of them drops 40, if not 50. I mean, I would say 50. And I think that's it. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. So, we got legends that didn't make the list because I couldn't find a comparison due to they were too unique of playing style or they were just too good. Okay. The legends, you got point guard, Pistol Pete Maravich. Don't think we'll ever see another guy like him. I would love, though, to see another guy like him. Yeah, Jason, not the drunk, not Jason Kidd. You know who I'm talking about. A white chocolate. And at scoring guard, also played point guard sometimes. The logo, Jerry West, baby. Okay, small forward, we got Rick Barry. He had 4 sons that played professionally. That's insane. And one of the ones, he was kind of a trick guy too. Could also play the point. He won the dunk contest. And on to power forward, Karl Malone, the mailman. And he definitely delivered with the ladies. And I could have went with Wilt Chamberlain for, center. There's an amazing story about them having to change the free throw rule, and I believe it was in high school. I don't think it was college. That you couldn't dunk from the, you couldn't jump from the free throw line and dunk the ball because he would try to do a free throw and he couldn't make it because he was pretty terrible at them. I think he shot, through the legs, the old underhand style. I know Barry did. I believe so. Or West. But I think it was Barry. And he would get pissed off, and so the second free throw he would just take a couple steps back and jump from the free throw line and dunk the ball. That's insane. You'll never see anybody do that. So, just a freak of nature. But I went with Moses Malone. He played 21 years, and he died at 60. About 10 years, I think, after he... That's completely wrong. Jesus Christ. It's about 20 years after he quit playing. But I don't know if Moses Malone was drafted in a bunch of different sports. Well, there's a few different guys like that. They just never ended up playing those other sports. And Danny Ainge. No. So people also that didn't make the list, these aren't necessarily legends or anything. They're just the most fun to watch players. And I am going to have to go with, here's a couple. At point guard, Muggsy Bogues. Played 14 years in the league. 5'3". Who would have guessed it? Guy had legs like tree trunks. Would swipe the ball from Jordan. Go look up some of his highlights. Also, Nate the Great Robinson. Loved watching him play. Real fun, energetic guy. Look up Gerald Wallace pick on Nate Robinson when they didn't play for the same team, obviously. Nate never sees it coming because he's got his head down and he's running back and he just gets leveled. Look up that. Also, scoring guard, Jason Richardson. One of the most funnest guys to watch play, especially in his prime. His in-game dunking through the roof, and just all around great player. And one of my favorite players, Dewan Wagner. Also, when you look up Jason Richardson, you'll see some of the old Warrior jerseys. That's when they were one of my favorite teams because they had the sickest jerseys. Their jerseys don't even come close. They're still cool. They're just not. They used to have some of the sickest jerseys. Anyway, yeah, Dewan Wagner. Probably one of the greatest high school players ever at scoring guard. 6'2" or 6'3" scoring guard. But he was like 200 pounds, all muscle. great player to watch. Check out some of his earlier stuff when he played for the Cavs. 100-point game in high school. And now this one, people probably won't like this one at all because some people might not even remember him playing. But the pothead son, Luke Walton, Bill Walton's son. Luke Walton, and I'm not talking about when he played for the Lakers. Look up, there's a game when he played for the Cavs. He only played for him for a couple of years before he ended up becoming, one of the youngest coaches ever. Anyways, some of the guys in the league that he came into the league with are still playing in today's game. Anyways, look up when he played for the Cavs, and he was playing with a broken nose, and you had that face mask on. He got pissed off, and he takes the face mask off and plays like the whole fucking game. And that was like one of their bad years where every player, that's when Sean Livingston made his comeback, and it's when, just look at that fucking game. That was one of the best games I've ever seen, especially out of Luke Walton. Never thought I'd mention him. So, anyways, I think he's an underrated coach too. Anyways, and it's funny that they mentioned this guy's name in the Zion Williamson thing on ESPN, The Jump, but it's Robert Tractor Trailer. He was a really good shooter later in his career. Hell, I remember watching he had car commercials and shit up in Cleveland when he played for Cleveland. He passed away. Sad story. The other guy, a power forward, Jerome Williams, the junkyard dog. Oh my God. That guy, if you were playing NBA 2K, so fun to put on your team. Now, we're going to go to, I believe, he's not the old. He wouldn't be the oldest rookie ever drafted now. But in the 90s, I believe it was the 90s, this guy was a little past his prime, but his passing, I can't even describe the word. Look him up. That's right, people. Arvydas Sabonis. Now, if you're a millennial, you won't know who the hell I'm talking about. But look him up. The guy was like 7'2", 7'3", and could pass like a point guard. And if they would have got him back in the day when they should have got him, when his knees weren't all, wore the fuck out, this guy could have been probably the greatest player ever. And then, of course, being a Cavs fan, I got Big Z, Zildrunas Ilgauskas. So another really fun player to watch. I'll be right back. So I want to get this out of the way before I forget. We went through, I think I only done it once or twice, but, we went through almost a whole podcast of none of that sound effect. Or then, of course, you got the old school. If you never listen to podcasts.
Who's the slimy little communist shit twinkle-toed cocksucker down here who just signed his own death
warrant? Oh, that's hate speech. Got to be careful, especially now. Don't want to mention any names. And before this thing dies, I told you I'll get to that funny story here in a second. It was about a week and a half ago. Me, my brother, my father, he wanted to take my brother-in-law. My dad wanted to take all our kids, and my brother-in-law's kids to a baseball game. So we went, and I'm just mentioning this because I thought it was pretty neat. So we went to the baseball game and had a great time. Anyways, so it's the Columbus Clippers. If people don't know that aren't local to Ohio, they used to be the farm team for the New York Yankees, and they are the farm team for, I believe, I was told, the Cleveland Indians now. So that's cool. And they played a team that was Louisville Bats. I don't know if it was the animal or the baseball bats they were referring to. And anyway, so when I was a kid, they had a different stadium in town, and we'd go see, all these guys came up there. I didn't see Derek Jeter play, but he played there, Don Mattingly, all these guys, even when Darryl Strawberry was on trying to rehab from his cocaine injury. He came there. I went and seen him. And so, yeah. Anyways, so there was a player on the bats, and I was pretty close behind first base so I could see the right fielder. And I was like, his name was Gabriel Guerrero. And I was like, man, he really looks like a Vladimir Guerrero. So, anyways, Clippers ended up losing the game, but it was a tight game, and it was a fun to watch baseball game. Not they all aren't fun to watch. Anyway, so Gabe or Gabby or Gabriel or whatever he goes by, Guerrero, smacks a home run, and the field is pretty deep into right field. And I believe he was a right-handed hitter too, so that's opposite field, and hit the scoreboard, which was in pretty high up on the scoreboard. Pretty neat, really fun to see. And then later when I got back a few days later, I kept thinking about it. Of course, I Googled him, found out, and I was even telling my brother, he looks like, I wonder if that's, if he's Vladimir Guerrero's son. Well, he's Vladimir Guerrero that just got into the Hall of Fame. He's his nephew. So that was pretty neat. And actually, he's been called up a few times. So on to the funny story. So this is about 2 years ago, about a year into my marriage. And downstairs in the basement, I kind of got my little man cave set up with some guitars and amps, if you ever seen some of the other videos, and guitar pedals and stuff like that. So, yeah, I got it to it. I don't have a PA system, but that's a whole nother story. Anyways, so I play along with songs. At the time I had a drummer that was going to play with me and a bass player that was going to play for me. And so I was trying to stay ready, if we ever had a gig coming up. And so basically I have a mic stand and I have little holders for drinks or whatnot on the mic stand. And I had some lights in there. That way, because my guitar pedals are below it, so if I'm on stage or something, I would, be able to use these lights and see the pedals. So actually, I would just leave the lights on and leave them in the cup holders. And so I decided I was going to turn off the lights and I was going to play. Because, if you're ever on stage, yeah, there are lights. But sometimes it could be very dark. You can't see. So I turned off the lights. Of course, the TV, I'm playing songs from YouTube and just playing along with them. And I'd always play along with a cover by Primus, Have a Cigar, Pink Floyd. But their set, the way they do it is a little bit different. Look that up too. It's a really cool version of that. And actually, I've met those guys too. So, but anyways, Larry, which is not even his real name, the guitar player of the band, which I've met, does some stuff that is, he kind of takes from David Gilmour's solo what he wants to do. So anyways, at that time, I was really into it. I had the lights off. I had these lights going. Obviously, my wife's upstairs. She can hear me because you can hear my amps and you can hear, my stereo from outside. So anyways, so she can hear what I'm doing, obviously. But at that time, I had his guitar part down so well. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she thought I was that he was just playing. I don't know. Fucking. So I'm like all in my own head, And so I'm playing. I just got done playing the song. I killed it, And I come upstairs, and she looks at me, and I'm kind of smiling. I just got done soloing the hell out of this song, and she smacks me upside my head, right? And I'm like looking at her like, what the fuck is your deal? What are you doing? I just go, But anyways, she smacked. I'm like, what are you doing? I just instantly changed from being really happy, and she took me out of this whole fucking mode, and I was really into it. And she's like, "You were down there jacking off, weren't you?" I'm like, No. Couldn't you hear me playing the guitar? Yeah. It might not be that funny, but it's funny to me. So, anyways, check out I got a link to my PayPal. There's a link on there. The shit ain't free to do. And I got some good news coming up next week, just like I said the week before. And there's also links to YouTube. There's links to the iTunes. And we're also on Stitcher now. And I appreciate everybody that watches and listens.
Who the fuck said that?
And check all those links out. If you guys got extra time and you really like the podcast, go onto iTunes, leave a review. I appreciate everybody out there. Let's see if we get this right. Nope, not exactly the one I wanted. We'll go with this one. Oh, come on.
Please like and subscribe and share so I can think my dad is cool.
Yeah, maybe he will. I appreciate everybody out there listening. You guys have a good week. Have a good week at your jobs.
Ain't no changing what's left. Can it be that it was all so simple then? Because we all race against death. Can it be that it was all so simple then?